What's up, Raiders? Bionic here, and welcome to today's Raid Shadow Legends video, which is going to be a follow-up of the top CC champions that I started not too long ago. So the whole point of these videos, guys, is to help you build perhaps better arena teams, but some of these champions are also very effective in other areas of the game, right? So we had done the top 5 champions, top freeze champions, top sleep, top 5 fear, and then top 5 provoke. Today we are going to do the top 5 block cooldown skills. Okay, the main difference with this debuff compared to, let's say, the provoke is that it forces the enemy champion to use the A1, but they can kind of pick the target. So it might not be your best option, but if the rest of the kit of the champion that has this debuff on it works, then why not, right? Such as, let's say, being combined with an AoE nuker or something of the sort. So as always, we're going to use my tier list to do this. We're going to go over all the lists, but then I'm only going to pick top 5. Like all the other debuffs, of course, there is always an AoE, random, and single target version, right? And I always give a preference to the AoE. Maybe the random in some cases, the single target perhaps as well in some cases, but most of the time, if you want to use a dedicated CC champion for the arena, you are going to want to use the AoE. I think it just has better use, but then again, there might be these very specific circumstances where the single target is that much better. So as you can see, there is a couple of rares. Unfortunately, not a lot of them made it on the top 5. In fact, I do believe the only one that did is the one that is the AoE. It is basically the Bellower, right? We've seen this guy so many times. He's such a good champion all around. He has the decreased attack, decreased defense, AoE. Then he's got the actual skill here with, the actual A1 with the block cooldown skills. It's only a 30% chance once fully booked, but you could put this guy in a stun set and he becomes that much better as a CC champion. And then he also has this AoE as well with a 15% decreased speed. So although it's pretty low, which is why he's last on the list, it's still an AoE, and because the rest of his kit is so great, I really think he deserves to be on the top 5 list. Not to mention that he also has basically the ability to be somewhat of a nuker, right? He is a support champion. I did tag him as a nuker. I covered him before. He's got some decent multipliers, but if anything, you can build him to be offensive, be your farmer, but you can also build him to be a CC champion. Anyway, a great champion all around, so definitely number 5 on my list. The next one is going to be the only epic. It is Fenax, because he's the only one that has, once again, the AoE version of it. The problem with Fenax is that it only happens on a certain condition. It's basically if the block buffs is not placed. And since you can increase the block buffs to an 80% chance of success, chances are that the block buffs will happen, which is still good. But then again, then they can use all the other skills, right? The block cooldown skills does not become as good, but it's a 100% chance because it says places a block cooldown skills debuff for 1 turn if this skill does not place the block buffs. It is a hit, so you may have a weak hit and it may not happen. But still, because this guy also has a decent kit all around, I also covered him not too long ago as one of the decent epic AoE nukers. So you may also want to use him for that purpose, right? Look at his attack. This guy, I'm pretty sure, can hit pretty hard. So for that reason, this guy is going to be on that list as well. Number 4, like I said, also being a nuker as well as a CC champion at the same time. The next one is the first legendary on the list. It is going to be Killian the Lucky. I like this guy because he was accessible, right? He was a fusion. We don't see a lot of him, but his skill is still pretty interesting. It's a single target hit, which has a 100% chance of placing the block cooldown skills, but it also has a 35% chance, or 50% once fully booked, of placing it on all other enemies for 1 turn, okay? So it is an AoE block cooldown skills. It is better than the Bellower, but like I said, it is a single target hit. This actually has a really high multiplier. The damage on this skill is 5.8 times his attack, which is really good compared to other champions in the game, and this one is 5.5, and it also has a stun, right? So overall, his kit is very interesting. The only problem with him is that even though the passive is insane, you run into problems against Torments. But in a tag team arena, you may be able to work it so that you do not have that problem, and because he's like a single target nuker, you may use him to your advantage to take out the really the most annoying champion on the other team with either this skill or this skill right here. So for that reason, Killian the Lucky is number 3 on my list. And the second champion on the list is going to be Logan the Steadfast, which is a champion that I have, which is pretty remarkable considering that I do not get a lot of the legendaries, but he's actually also in the Bannerlords. So this guy right here has a 100% chance of placing a block cooldown skills once fully booked on all enemies. This is a hit, so you can get a weak hit. It might not work. What I also love about this guy is that he has a decent amount of speed, 103, okay? So he may act as your dedicated CC champion. The only problem is that he's an HP. This scales off of attack, and then this skill right here scales off of HP, right? So he's an A1 AoE healer, right, in that sense, but I feel it's hard to get the right stats on this guy. He may be a good candidate for the shield set, but at the same time, he doesn't have the highest HP for an HP champion. So I tend to find it kind of hard how to properly use him. I covered this as having a decent multiplier as well in one of my previous videos, so you may get him to hit relatively hard. The problem is also that on auto, he may use this skill first, okay, which is great in itself, but if you're looking for a dedicated CC champion, you may have that problem on your defense teams. But anyway, all that being said, because it's 100% chance and it's an AoE, Logan the Steadfast is number 2 on my list. And the number 1 champion, of course, is going to be Hegemon, right? So we know Hegemon for multiple reasons. The main one being is that he always attacks first, right? That's his passive right here. And if there are other Hegemons in the game or in play, the one with the most speed will go first. But he also has the AoE block cooldown skills, as well as having the 50% decrease attack. It's an AoE. He's void, which means is you can't suffer the weak hit. So it's most likely going to happen. Well, it has a 50% chance, of course, but what I'm saying is that you can sort of count on this to take out, you know, half the team most of the time, right? So he also hits apparently relatively hard. I did not tag him. Well, I kind of did tag him as a nuker, but you don't typically use him as a nuker because you do not get the ability to buff him beforehand. He's going first, so you can't do increased attack or decreased defense, right? So you kind of have to rely on this. Maybe this guy in a stun set is the way to go for the arena. But right now, Platinum is full of Hegemons. If you do have one, then great. And it's interesting to see that the block cooldown skills is actually on one of the best AoE CC champions in the game right now. The rest of his kits is interesting. The increased crit rate is not typically what we use him for. It's really this passive right here, and then opens up with this skill right there. So there you have it, my top 5 block cooldown skills champion right now. Let's do 3 honorable mentions real fast because I think they deserve to be mentioned. It is going to be Bistofus, I think is how you call him right here. He does have the random block cooldown skills on his A3, can be booked to a 75% chance, also has the ability to place a 60% decreased defense, but once again, it is random and I'm not a big fan of that, and then has the AoE, which will do a guaranteed crit hit if the block cooldown skills are already placed. The next one is, if I'm not mistaken, in the undead, it's going to be Banshee we could do here. Yeah, so she does have it as well. It's random as well. It's on her A3. It's only 50% chance, but if anything else, or if you don't have anything else, then you can always use her. I think she's good in a stun set. She could also even be used as a farmer because she has an AoE A1 with the 30% decreased defense, but she also has a 50% chance or 75% chance once fully booked of removing one random buff from each target on a 2-turn cooldown. So that's always very interesting as well. And then the last one was what was the Oathbound. We talked about this guy before as well. I now really like his kit because he got buffed, if I'm not mistaken, but he has also random but 4 times block cooldown skills, which only has a 50% chance once fully booked. However, if you already have the decreased attack on the enemy champions, this turns into 100%, okay? So if you're able to work that combo, or if by, you know, you want to do his A2 first and then go into his A3, but that kind of defeats the purpose of having a dedicated CC champion. But anyway, also has the freeze on his A1. So guys, there you have it, the list of my top 5s along with all the previous ones I talked about, including the single target ones. Some of these single target ones have a 100% chance of placing the block cooldown skills, but because it's a single target, aside from Killian, I am not a big fan as well. Like I said, I really think the AoE is that much better. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching today, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and as always, I will catch you later.